and other crimes were very common. It might make sense then, while the attack on Jimmy and Mary Jean was brutal, the community didn't pay it much attention until another attack occurred a month later. This one fatal.
Yeah, I mean, it must be an upsetting place if a masked man trying to assault two people is just passing news.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, did you hear about that, the masked phantom who tried to murder two people? Oh, yeah. Hey, let's go get a soda pop.
On the morning of March 24th, authorities found the bodies of 29-year-old Richard L. Griffin and 17-year-old Polly Ann Moore in a 1941 Oldsmobile on what was then known as a lover's lane. Both had been shot in the back of the head. Richard was found between the two front seats on his knees, with his head in his hands. His pants pockets were inside out, thought to be the result of someone trying to rob him. Polly Ann was discovered face down in the back seat of the car, though there was evidence that suggested she may have been murdered on a blanket outside the car and placed there later. The couple had last been seen around 10 p.m. the night before, eating dinner with Richard's sister. They had been shot with what was thought to have been a Colt .32 caliber pistol, and any footprints that would have been around the car had been washed away throughout the day.
We gotta give kids places to make out.
That's unfortunately, most of these serial killer cases happen in a lover's lane scenario.
That's what I'm saying. We gotta give them a well-lit area that is central to a town's location.
Maybe some water, vending machines nearby.
Oh yeah, some soda pops, some
Yeah.
sprees, whatever, you know? Just a place with a bunch of, well, probably don't want to bring hammocks into the equation because smooching might elevate, but...
That is true. Also, a hammock would be really hard to escape if a serial killer did come up to you while you were smooching in a hammock.
sure.
It's impossible.
It's just a murder bag.
You're trapped in a little net. You're
Yeah,
like in a
they're
little,
just
a little spider net. Though there weren't many clues for authorities to go off of, 3 days after the killings, at least 50 people had been asked about the murder, and over 100 false leads had been investigated. While this attack, ending in the murder of a young couple, turned more heads than the first assault, the community still believed these events to be isolated incidents. 3 weeks later, their indifference would change into a frenzy of fear. On April 14th, authorities found the bodies of 15-year-old Betty Jo Booker and 16-year-old Paul Martin. The previous night, the two teens had attended a band performance at the Veterans of Foreign Wars Club, where Betty Jo played alto saxophone. They were also seen leaving the dance around 1:30 in the morning. Paul had been shot 4 times and was discovered in a rural area on North Park Road. Betty Jo had been raped and shot twice. Her body was found up in the woods about a mile away.
So escalating, getting worse.
Getting worse, he's getting a little more bold. One thing you can note though, because you always see the trends of these serial killers, all of these were couples.
Interesting.
Both had been shot with a .32 caliber Colt, the same weapon thought to be used in the previous attack. This being the third attack in less than 2 months, now with 4 young people dead, the community was finally paying attention, and they were panicked. When their husbands and fathers were away for work, women and children would move into the aptly named Hotel Grimm in downtown Texarkana.
Sort of like a staycation.
No, it's not like a staycation. It's more like people around us are getting murdered. Let's all huddle together under the roof of a place named the Hotel Grimm.
Well, clearly it's a popular establishment, and if everybody trusts them, they're going there as a place of refuge.
I suppose.
Maybe stop being so judgy of these.
The thing is, maybe
kind
I
people
just
in
don't
Texas.
have the insight that you have, because this town, as I said, was a rowdy town. They even called it Little Chicago. And as we all know, that's where you hail from.
I hail from Big Chicago.
Murder Town, USA.
Okay, well, you know, there's some big issues there.
Others bought guns and crafted homemade security systems from kitchenware and wire around their homes. Typically bustling streets went quiet. The Texarkana Gazette named the attacker the Phantom Killer. And it doesn't help that the press named him the Phantom Killer. They gave him a nickname. If you give someone a nickname, it's a compliment. We should never be doing that for the serial killer.
Don't puff him up. Don't puff him up.
Because he probably read that in the paper next day and was like, that's got a ring to it. I'm gonna get some business cards printed.
Yeah.
Tillman Johnson, one of the lead investigators, said, quote, "We were constantly getting calls, mostly at night, about prowlers. People would call about any noise they heard at all," end quote. Everyone was afraid they would be the next victim of the Phantom Killer.
Seems like a little bit of a stretch for really any Texan in the 1940s to say, you know what, I think I might need to buy a gun.
It is also fun that they're setting little Kevin McAllister booby traps around
Love
the
that.
house.
I think people perhaps undervalue booby traps.
I don't think they're that practical in real life.
They could be if you do it well.
Who are you trying to booby trap on a regular basis? Your cat? Your sweet Obi?
He's a sweet boy.
You trying to booby trap that cat?
No, I don't. I want to do the opposite. I want to booby hug him.
Booby hug him.
I don't know what the term is.
It's
Whatever the
definitely not
opposite
that.
of a booby trap is.
I'll
I want
tell you the term
to
is
lay
not-
down a path of rose petals. You know, come this way, sir.
I tell you what,
You're a sweet boy with a fuzzy face. I'll give you a little hug.
On May 3rd, 37-year-old farmer Virgil Starks was listening to the radio when a .22 caliber round tore through his front porch window and hit him. His wife Katie left their bedroom to find Virgil bleeding in the living room. Katie went to call for help when the attacker shot her twice in the face. The bullets knocked some of her teeth out, but she survived. Ducking to avoid more shots, she made her way back to the bedroom. As the attacker tried to break in through the kitchen window, Katie escaped out the front door, with a bullet stuck under her tongue and trailing blood behind her. Katie made it to a nearby farmhouse, where she was taken to the hospital and survived. Virgil, however, died.
I don't like any mouth teeth stuff. Don't like it.
No, you know, like when people get in fights and you can kind of see like the teeth coming like, and they're falling out of their mouth.
I've got big issues with teeth, even if I'm sitting with someone who is taking a fork and eating and it scrapes against their teeth.
Oh yeah, I don't like that either, or a drill. We're also kind of lightly glossing over the fact that she got shot in the face twice.
Yeah, that's worse than a fork scraping.
An indication of the fear the Phantom Killer had instilled in the community. 20 to 30 police officers converged on the Starks farmhouse. Police tried to gather evidence and interview possible suspects and witnesses. According to Johnson, quote, people would stand out near the front of their homes and yell at you to identify yourself before you got too close. You had to identify yourself or you would get shot, end quote.
Fair.
So yeah, I mean, we're on high alert here.
Yeah.
If this was me, I'd have a double-barrel shotgun pointed directly at the door at all times.
You'd probably have to have shifts, because I'd want someone out there at night too.
I'm staying up day and night. I don't sleep.
Well, then now you're setting yourself up that's vulnerable because
That's
you're
true.
going to fall asleep.
Maybe I'll take a nap.
Yeah, take a nap.
I'll take a nap and then
Hey, I'll
let's do
tag in.
shifts. You're right.
Yeah.
Shifts are right. Shifts are good. I wanted to be. I've never even shot a gun, so
You've never shot a gun?
no,
You don't have to.
I don't think I have to. Authorities followed bloody footprints left by the killer that went from the house across the highway, where they eventually lost the trail. While this incident exacerbated the fear of the Phantom Killer, it's possible this killing was done by someone else. The other attacks had targeted people younger than the Starks and had taken place in cars, not homes. In addition, Virgil was shot with a .22 caliber semi-automatic pistol, a different weapon than the .32 caliber used in the previous murders of Betty Jo and Paul. Still, this incident was included in the Phantom investigation as panic swept the area. Authorities took to dressing as young couples in an effort to lure the murderer, but it appeared the Phantom was done. 2 months later, with no more Phantom murders, the community's fear began to decrease, and life started to get back to normal. No one was ever found guilty of the murders.
Backtrack just a bit.
About the dressing up?
Yep, exactly right.
Yeah, I thought so.
I'm imagining an old Texan man with a large bushy mustache. I guess like a chubby Sam Elliott, a cop hat on, a white t-shirt, pack of cigarettes rolled up in it.
You're imagining a clearly adult, burly police officer
Exactly
trying to
right.
look like a 16-year-old boy.
100%.
And it's hilarious.
Yes. And next to him, also an adult male.
With a big old mustache
Yeah,
and
sort
a
of
wig
like-
on.
Sort of like just maybe
Yeah.
pretending to make out. Or maybe actually making out.
Or
Maybe like-
pre-recorded noises of smooching noises.
Oh,
Like a lot.
like a Ferris Bueller situation. Just sort of like,
That's like cartoon kissing. No one sounds like that when they're kissing. With that, it's time to look into possible theories behind the Texarkana Phantom murders, of which there are basically only two. The first theory is H.B. Duty Tennyson, a college student who confessed to some of the killings in a note left behind after he killed himself. According to a newspaper from the day of his death, a sheriff reportedly said the note read, quote, "Why did I take my own life? Well, when you committed 2 double murders, you would too. Yes, I did kill Betty Jo Booker and Paul Martin in the city park that night, and killed Mr. Stark and tried to get Mrs. Stark," end quote. According to Duty's cousin, forensic psychiatrist Dr. John Tennyson, Duty had connections to all of the victims. He was allegedly an usher at the theater where some victims of the attacks had seen movies before their deaths, and had been in the same high school band as Betty Jo. According to Dr. Tennyson, one of Duty's friends lived under the same roof as the sister of Katie Starks.
All right.
So he had some connections to some of the victims. But I will note that the sources, when it came to that note in particular, were shaky at best.
It was just him. Why do they save these things? Why is this hearsay?
People want to have
Answer me.
It's like that. People in the public want answers. There's this horrible thing happening in their town. They look to the authorities for answers, and if they don't have them, there's outrage. So you need to have something to say.
Interesting.
So as a result, maybe some shoddy reporting.
But it is fairly convenient that he has all these connections to them. And
It is. He's a very interesting suspect for sure. But for me, because there's that note and these connections, and yet he still wasn't indicted for the crimes, there must have been something that ruled him out outright.
yeah.
Our other theory is 29-year-old Uelle Lee Swinney. Around the time of the attacks, Arkansas State Trooper Max Tackett observed that cars were reported stolen and later found abandoned whenever the Phantom Killer made an attack. Following this lead led police to stake out a downtown parking lot on June 28, 1946, where a stolen car was abandoned. This led to the arrest of 21-year-old Peggy Swinney, the new wife of one Uelle Lee Swinney. While in custody, Peggy gave many detailed statements explaining how her husband committed the murders of Betty Jo and Paul, though descriptions of her own involvement varied from statement to statement. On July 23rd, Peggy gave a statement saying that on April 13th, the day before the bodies of Betty Jo Booker and Paul Martin were found, she and Uelle parked at Spring Lake Park and drank some beers. According to her statement, Uelle left the car saying he had to, quote, take a leak, end quote. Peggy said, quote, he was gone from the car about 1 hour when I heard something that sounded like 2 gunshots. It was just getting daylight when he came back to the car and started driving out of the park at a rapid rate of speed. When he came back to the car, I saw that his clothes were wet up to his knees and damp on up to his waist, end quote.
She says that her boyfriend steps out of the car to go pee.
Yep.
And then he takes a long time, comes back. And when he comes back, he's very rushed.
She's
He's
heard
driving.
gunshots.
She's heard gunshots. He's driving very fast. He's wet. Not because of the pee, I imagine because he.
Went through a creek or something?
It's near a lake, so.
It's near a lake. Washing off the blood? She does seem to have a fair amount of details.
She does, and there's one detail that she has that is very interesting that she knows, and we'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
On July 24th, Peggy gave another statement. In this one, she said Uelle had said, quote, he was going out to the park to rob someone, end quote. Peggy said she went with Uelle to Paul Martin's car, where Uelle pointed a gun at the young couple and told them to get out of the car. Peggy said that she refused to search the teenagers, which angered Uelle, and he shot Martin twice. Peggy then allegedly held Betty Jo in place while Uelle got his car. He drove it back, made both girls get into the car, drove west, turned around, and shot Paul 2 more times, as he had apparently been able to get up and move after the first 2 shots. He took Betty Jo into the woods while Peggy waited in the car. When Uelle returned, he told Peggy he had tried to, quote, get some, end quote, with the young girl, and then shot her after she refused.
Wait, so this is the same attack but a different story?
So she gave multiple statements about this day that they were at the lake. One version, she says he left and came back. This version, she says,
She was well involved with
she
all
was
this.
somewhat involved, and she said that he was going to go rob these people.
I see.
While Peggy's story shifted, she crucially told police information that only someone who had been at the scene of the crime would have known. For instance, Peggy mentioned how Paul's date book was thrown into some bushes, a fact that only Bowie County Sheriff W.H. Bill Presley knew at the time, as he had been the one who'd found the book.
So it sounds like she knows what she's talking about.
Okay, so there's 2 scenarios, right? She was there when the murder happened, or
She happened upon it.
she happened upon it while they were at the lake, found these bodies, saw that there was that in the bush, and then ran away, and then realized later, maybe they'll find out I was there.
Yeah.
But I will say that if scenario 2 was true, it does not make a bit of sense for her to be like, yeah, we decided we were gonna rob them.
Oh, they might find out I was there. I know what. I'll tell them we killed him. That doesn't make any sense.
I know, I'll tell them he killed them, and I thought about a
And
robbery.
I just kind of was
but
there.
I wasn't down.
Uelle was arrested at the Arkansas Motor Coach bus station as he arrived back from Atlanta, where he had attempted to sell a stolen car. While his wife was willing to talk to investigators, Yuel was not. Critically, while Peggy did give statements to investigators, she could not be forced to testify against Yuel, as they had gotten married mere hours before police arrested her.
I'm having a hard time taking a temperature on these two. Do they love each other?
I don't know,
Clearly
man.
not, because she's...
She's, ratting him out, but that also could be self-preservation. She could have been involved.
Do they get off on this?
That's what I was saying. Like a weird Bonnie and Clyde.
But Bonnie and Clyde stuck together. Bonnie wasn't like, hey, you gotta check out this Clyde guy.
Yuel was taken to Little Rock for a truth serum shot, but he was given too much, which caused him to pass out. Investigator Tillman Johnson said, quote, "I think that if we had just kept him here in Texarkana and kept questioning him, we would have gotten the truth out of him eventually," end quote.
Or the truth serum's not real.